The words hit Nathan Pierce like a punch to the chest. He stood frozen behind the counter of his flagship toy store, staring down at the tiny girl with pigtails and worn-out shoes who had just asked the most heartbreaking question he'd ever heard. "Sir, I want to buy a daddy," the little girl repeated, her voice innocent but determined. She couldn't be more than 6 years old, her dark skin glowing under the store's bright lights, but her clothes were too small and had seen better days. In her small fist, she clutched a crumpled $5 bill and some loose change. Nathan's throat went dry. What did you say, sweetheart?" "A daddy," she said again, placing the money on the glass counter with careful precision. "My sister Jade says this is the biggest toy store in the city. She says you can buy anything here. So I want to buy a daddy." The other customers in the store had stopped browsing. The usual sounds of children laughing and parents chatting faded into an uncomfortable silence. Nathan felt every eye in the store watching this moment unfold. "Honey, we only sell toys here," Nathan managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. "We don't sell people." The little girl's face scrunched up in confusion. "But I need one. My mommy went to heaven last year and my sister works all the time. I see other kids with their daddies at the park and they look so happy. They get pushed on swings and carried on shoulders and read bedtime stories." Her voice grew smaller with each word. "I thought maybe if I saved up enough money I could get one too." Nathan felt his eyes burning. Behind the little girl, he noticed the store had gone completely quiet. Even the teenage employees had stopped stocking shelves to listen. This wasn't just any random request from a child. This was pure, desperate hope wrapped in the most innocent package imaginable. "What's your name?" Nathan asked, coming around the counter to kneel at her level. "Lily," she said, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. "Lily Washington. And you're the store man, right? The one who decides what gets sold." "Yes, I am." Nathan's voice cracked slightly. "Tell me about your sister." Lily's face brightened a little. "Jade is the best sister ever. She's really pretty and smart and she takes care of me all by herself. But she's always tired because she works 3 jobs. She leaves before I wake up and comes home after I eat dinner with Mrs. Garcia next door. Sometimes I hear her crying at night when she thinks I'm sleeping." Nathan's heart clenched. He thought about his own childhood, about the gaping hole his father's death had left when he was just 7 years old. He remembered asking his mother similar questions, wondering why other kids had daddies and he didn't. "Lily, having a daddy isn't something you can buy," Nathan said gently. "It's something that happens when people care about each other very much." "Like when people get married in movies?" Lily asked, her eyes wide with hope. "Sometimes yes." "So if my sister Jade married someone, then I would have a daddy?" Nathan nodded, not trusting his voice. Around them, several customers were openly wiping their eyes. One elderly woman had pulled out tissues and was dabbing at her cheeks. "How much money would that cost?" Lily asked, looking down at her crumpled bills. "I have $5.37. Is that enough for Jade to find someone nice?" Before Nathan could answer, the store's front door burst open with a jingle of bells. A young African-American woman rushed inside, her beautiful face etched with panic. She wore a waitress uniform from the diner down the street, and her hair was pulled back in a ponytail that had come loose from running. "Lily," she called out, scanning the store frantically. "Lily, where are you?" "Jade." Lily waved excitedly. "I'm here. I'm buying us a daddy." The woman Jade froze when she spotted her little sister standing next to Nathan. Her eyes moved from Lily to the money on the counter to Nathan's tear-streaked face. The pieces clicked together instantly. "Oh no," Jade whispered, rushing over. "Lily, what did you do?" "I asked the store man to sell me a daddy," Lily explained proudly. "He says it doesn't work that way, but maybe if you marry someone nice then I can have one. Do you think you could marry someone, Jade? Please?" Jade's face went through a dozen emotions: embarrassment, heartbreak, exhaustion, and something that looked like defeat. She knelt down and pulled Lily into a tight hug. "Baby, I'm so sorry," she whispered into Lily's hair. "I'm so sorry." Nathan watched this scene unfold, feeling like an intruder on an intensely private moment. But he couldn't look away. There was something about Jade's fierce protectiveness and obvious love for her little sister that struck him deeply. And there was something about the way she held herself, proud despite her circumstances, strong despite being overwhelmed. "I have to get back to work," Jade said, standing up and avoiding Nathan's eyes. "Come on, Lily. Mrs. Garcia is worried sick." "But what about the daddy?" Lily asked, looking between Jade and Nathan. Jade's shoulders sagged. "That's not how it works, baby. Come on." As they turned to leave, Nathan made a decision that would change all their lives forever. "Wait," he called out. Jade's alarm buzzed at 4:30 a.m., the same harsh sound that started every day. She rolled out of the narrow bed she shared with Lily, careful not to wake her little sister. In the dim light filtering through their apartment's thin curtains, she could see Lily's peaceful face, still clutching the stuffed elephant their mother had given her before she died. The apartment was tiny, just one bedroom, a small living area, and a kitchen with appliances that worked half the time. But it was clean and it was theirs, and Jade was determined to keep it that way. She grabbed her cleaning supplies and uniform from the closet, moving quietly through their morning routine. By 5 a.m. she was on the bus to downtown, heading to her first job of the day. The office building was 40 stories of glass and steel, filled with lawyers and accountants who made more in a month than Jade made in a year. She spent 3 hours cleaning their offices, emptying trash cans, vacuuming carpets, and scrubbing bathrooms. The work was honest, but it was invisible. Most days she never saw the people who worked in these offices. They arrived after she left, lived their important lives, and went home to families who had never worried about choosing between rent and groceries. By 8:30 a.m., Jade was back on the bus, heading to the diner where she worked the lunch shift. This was her favorite job, even though it paid the least. She liked the customers, mostly construction workers, shop owners, and elderly people who treated her like family. They knew her name, asked about Lily, and left tips when they could afford to. "Morning, Jade," called out Betty, the head cook. "How's that little sister of yours?" "She's good," Jade replied, tying her apron around her waist. Started asking about why other kids have daddies and she doesn't. Betty's face softened. She was in her 50s, had raised 4 kids as a single mother herself. That's a tough age for those questions. "I don't know what to tell her anymore," Jade admitted, filling sugar dispensers. "She sees families at the park, watches movies where everyone has a daddy, and I can see her trying to figure out what's wrong with us." "Nothing's wrong with you too," Betty said firmly. "You're doing the best you can." But was she? Jade wondered as she served coffee and took orders. Yesterday, Lily had asked if they could go to the father-daughter dance at school. Jade had explained that it was for daddies, not sisters, and watched Lily's face fall. Then Lily had suggested that maybe Jade could pretend to be her daddy, and Jade's heart had broken a little more. The lunch rush kept her busy until 3 p.m. Then it was time for job number 3, stocking shelves at the grocery store until 10 p.m. Mrs. Garcia, their elderly neighbor, picked up Lily from school and watched her until Jade got home. Jade hated imposing on the sweet old woman, but she had no choice. "How was school today?" Jade asked when she finally made it home that night. "Good," Lily said, but she seemed distracted. "Jade, can I ask you something?" "Of course, baby." "Why don't we have any money?" The question was so direct, so innocent that Jade had to sit down. "What do you mean?" "Well, Tommy's mom stays home and bakes cookies with him after school. And Sarah's dad took her to Disney World. And Jessica got new shoes for her birthday. Why can't we do things like that?" Jade pulled Lily onto her lap, trying to find words that would make sense to a 6-year-old. "Remember how Mommy got sick and had to go to heaven?" Lily nodded. "Well, when someone dies, sometimes they leave behind money to take care of their family. But Mommy didn't have any money saved up because all of it went to the doctors trying to make her better. So now it's just you and me, and I have to work extra hard to pay for our apartment and food and everything we need." "Is that why you're always tired?" "Sometimes I get tired," Jade admitted. "But taking care of you makes me happy even when I'm tired." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I wish we had a daddy who could help." That night, after Lily fell asleep, Jade sat at their small kitchen table with a calculator and a pile of bills. No matter how she arranged the numbers, they didn't add up. The rent was going up next month. Lily was growing out of her clothes. And winter was coming, which meant higher electric bills. She thought about what Lily had said about wanting a daddy. It wasn't about romance or companionship for Jade, it was about simple survival. A partner would mean shared expenses, someone to watch Lily when she was at work, someone to help carry the crushing weight of responsibility. But who would want to take on a broke waitress with a kid? Jade looked in the mirror and saw the exhaustion in her own eyes, the way stress had aged her beyond her 24 years. She was pretty enough, she supposed, but pretty didn't pay bills or provide the kind of stability a family needed. The next day, during her break at the diner, Jade made a decision. She walked the 6 blocks to Nathan's toy store, the one Lily had been talking about all week. She stood outside for 10 minutes, watching families go in and out with shopping bags full of toys that cost more than she made in a week. Finally, she pushed through the door. The store was huge, filled with every toy imaginable. Children ran between the aisles while their parents followed behind, credit cards ready. Jade felt out of place in her diner uniform, but she was determined. She found the customer service desk and waited in line behind a woman returning a bicycle. "Can I help you?" asked the teenage clerk. "I'd like to speak to the owner," Jade said. "About my sister." The clerk looked confused. "Is there a problem with a purchase?" "No, my sister was here yesterday. She asked to buy a daddy. I need to apologize." The clerk's expression changed. "Oh, you're Lily's sister. Mr. Pierce told us all about that. Hold on." 5 minutes later, Nathan Pierce appeared. He was tall, well-dressed, and had kind eyes that seemed genuinely concerned. "You must be Jade," he said. "I've been hoping to see you again." Nathan Pierce's corner office on the 50th floor offered a view of the entire city, but he rarely looked out the windows anymore. Success had a way of making the world feel smaller, not larger. His desk was covered with reports from his 12 toy stores, profit margins that would make shareholders smile, and invitations to charity galas he would attend alone. At 32, Nathan was worth more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes. Pierce Toys had started as a single store when he was 25, built with inheritance money and a desperate need to create something meaningful. Now it was a chain that brought joy to thousands of children, but Nathan couldn't remember the last time he'd felt truly happy himself. The encounter with Lily had shaken something loose inside him. For 3 days he'd been unable to focus on quarterly reports or expansion plans. Instead he kept seeing her innocent face, hearing her voice asking to buy a daddy, feeling the echo of his own childhood pain. Nathan walked to the window and looked down at the busy street below. Somewhere out there, Jade was working her 3 jobs while Lily waited with a neighbor. The thought made his chest tight with an emotion he couldn't quite name. His assistant Carol knocked on the door. "Mr. Pierce? Your 2 o'clock appointment is here." "Cancel it," Nathan said without turning around. "Sir? Cancel all my meetings today. I need to think." After Carol left, Nathan opened his desk drawer and pulled out a framed photo he kept hidden there. It showed him at age 7, standing next to his father at the groundbreaking ceremony for what would become Pierce Construction, the company that had made his family wealthy. His father, James Pierce, was smiling broadly, his hand on Nathan's shoulder. 3 months after that photo was taken, James Pierce died of a heart attack on a construction site. Nathan had been in school when it happened, working on a math worksheet about addition and subtraction, unaware that the most important person in his world was gone. The funeral was a blur of black clothes and condolences. Nathan remembered asking his mother when Daddy was coming home, not understanding that heaven was a place you couldn't drive back from. He'd offered to give up his allowance, his toys, even his bedroom if it would bring his father back. "Money can't buy everything," his mother had told him gently. "Some things are more valuable than all the money in the world." But 8-year-old Nathan had decided she was wrong. Money bought security, comfort, the ability to fix problems. If they'd had more money, maybe his father wouldn't have had to work so hard. Maybe he would have gone to the doctor sooner. Maybe he would still be alive. Nathan had spent the next 24 years proving his theory right. Money could buy almost everything: houses, cars, experiences, even happiness for other people through his charitable donations. But it couldn't buy back his father, and it couldn't fill the hollow space in his chest that had been empty for so long he'd forgotten what it felt like to be whole. Until 3 days ago, when a little girl with pigtails had reminded him that some forms of pain were universal. Nathan picked up his phone and dialed his private investigator, a man he used for background checks on potential business partners. "Frank, I need you to find some information for me," Nathan said. "But I want you to be discreet. Very discreet." "What do you need?" "There's a young woman named Jade Washington. She works at Romano's Diner on 5th Street, has a 6-year-old sister named Lily. I need to know their situation, where they live, what they need, how I can help without making it obvious." Frank was quiet for a moment. "This isn't business related, is it?" "No," Nathan admitted. "It's personal. Mr. Pierce, with respect, you've never asked me to investigate anyone for personal reasons before. Are you sure about this?" Nathan thought about Lily's hopeful face, about Jade's exhausted eyes when she'd come to collect her sister from the store. "I'm sure." 2 days later, Frank's report arrived via encrypted email. The facts were laid out in stark, clinical language that somehow made them more heartbreaking. Jade Washington, age 24. High school graduate, partial college scholarship lost when mother became ill. Mother died of cancer 13 months ago, left significant medical debt. Currently works 3 jobs: cleaning service 5 a.m. to 8 a.m., Romano's Diner 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Wilson's Grocery, 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. Annual income approximately $31,000. Rent on one-bedroom apartment. $1,200 per month. Guardian to sister Lily Washington, age 6 since mother's death. No other family. Outstanding debts. $47,000 in medical bills, $3,200 in credit cards. Assets. 2008 Honda Civic with 180,000 miles, value approximately $3,000. Nathan read the report 3 times, each detail hitting him like a physical blow. Jade was barely keeping her head above water, working herself to exhaustion for an income that would never be enough. And she was doing it all for Lily, sacrificing her own future to give her sister a chance. That evening, Nathan drove to the neighborhood where they lived. It wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't safe either. The apartment building was old but maintained, the kind of place where people worked hard and minded their own business. He sat in his car across the street, watching lights come on in windows as people returned from work. At 10:30 p.m., he saw Jade walking down the sidewalk, her shoulders slumped with fatigue. She climbed the steps to her building slowly, like each step required enormous effort. Nathan wanted to get out of the car, to offer help, to do something. But what could he say? How could he explain his presence without sounding like a stalker? Instead, he drove home to his empty mansion in the hills, where every room was perfectly decorated and completely lifeless. He ate dinner alone at a dining table that could seat 12, surrounded by expensive art and uncomfortable silence. That night, Nathan lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about second chances and the strange ways fate worked. He'd spent years building a business empire, but he'd never built a family. He'd donated millions to charities, but he'd never truly touched an individual life. Maybe it was time to change that. Maybe it was time to find out if money could buy something after all, not happiness exactly, but the opportunity for happiness. The chance for a little girl to have a father figure, for an exhausted young woman to have help, for a lonely man to have a purpose beyond profit margins. The next morning, Nathan made a phone call to his head of human resources. "I need to create a new position," he said. "Director of Children's Programming for the flagship store. I want someone special for this job. Someone who understands what kids really need." "What are the qualifications?" his HR director asked. Nathan smiled, thinking of Jade's fierce protectiveness and obvious love for her sister. Someone who knows that the most important things in life can't be bought. Jade's hands shook as she stood outside the corporate offices of Pierce Toys. The building was 40 stories of gleaming glass and steel, the kind of place where important people made important decisions that affected thousands of lives. She felt small in her best outfit, a navy blue dress she'd bought at a thrift store for her mother's funeral and had worn to every important occasion since. The receptionist, a perfectly groomed woman in an expensive suit, looked up with a polite but distant smile. "Can I help you?" "I have an appointment with Mr. Pierce," Jade said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Jade Washington." "Of course. Please take a seat. He'll be with you shortly." Jade sat on a leather couch that probably cost more than she made in 6 months. Around her, the lobby buzzed with activity, people in designer suits talking on phones, assistants carrying important-looking documents, the quiet hum of serious business being conducted. She still couldn't believe she was here. 3 days ago, Nathan Pierce had shown up at the diner during her lunch shift. He'd ordered coffee and waited until her break, then asked if they could talk privately. Jade had been suspicious at first. Wealthy men didn't usually seek out broke waitresses unless they wanted something inappropriate. But there had been something genuine in his eyes, something that reminded her of the way he'd looked at Lily in the toy store. "I have a business proposition for you," he'd said simply. "I'd like you to consider working for me." Now, riding the elevator to the 20th floor, Jade wondered if she was making a huge mistake. What did she know about working in corporate America? She'd cleaned office buildings, but she'd never actually worked in one. Her experience was serving food and stocking shelves, not whatever it was that happened in places like this. Nathan's office was bigger than her entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that took her breath away. But what struck her most was how empty it felt despite all the expensive furniture and artwork. It was beautiful but cold, like a hotel room where no one actually lived. "Jade, thank you for coming," Nathan said, standing up from behind his massive desk. He looked different here in his own environment, more polished, more intimidating. But his smile was the same one he'd given Lily in the toy store, warm and genuine. "Mr. Pierce, I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm not sure what I could possibly do for a company like this," Jade said, taking the chair he offered across from his desk. "Please call me Nathan. And I think you're exactly what we need." He leaned forward, his expression earnest. I've been thinking a lot about what happened in the store with Lily. About what she said, what she needs. It made me realize that for all our success selling toys, we don't really understand children. Not the way someone like you does. Jade frowned. I don't understand. I want to create a new position, Director of Children's Programming for our flagship store. Someone who can develop activities, events, programs that truly connect with kids. Someone who knows what it's like to struggle, who understands that not every family can afford to spend hundreds of dollars on toys, but every child deserves to feel special. You want me to plan activities? Jade asked, trying to process what he was saying. More than that. I want you to create experiences. Saturday morning story times for kids whose parents work weekends. After-school programs where children can do homework and play while their parents finish work. Birthday parties for families who can't afford big celebrations. Programs that make our store a place where every child feels welcome, regardless of their family's situation. Jade stared at him, wondering if this was some kind of elaborate joke. Nathan, I appreciate the thought, but I don't have any experience with that kind of work. I'm a waitress and a cleaning lady. I never even finished college. But you raised a 6-year-old sister while working 3 jobs. You know more about what children need than any business school graduate. Nathan pulled out a folder from his desk. I've done some research on programs like this. They exist in some places but not here. Not in a way that really serves working families. He slid the folder across to her. Inside were articles about toy stores that had become community centers, research about child development and play, salary information that made Jade's eyes widen. This can't be right, she said, pointing to the salary figure. This is more than I make at all 3 of my jobs combined. It's competitive for the position, Nathan said simply. Plus full health benefits, paid vacation, and flexible hours so you can be there for Lily after school. Jade felt like she was dreaming. What? Why would you offer this to me? You don't even know me. Nathan was quiet for a long moment, looking out the window at the city below. When I was 7, my father died suddenly. My mother did her best, but she was overwhelmed, working constantly to keep us afloat. I spent a lot of time alone, wondering why other kids had daddies and I didn't. Sound familiar? Jade nodded, understanding beginning to dawn. I built this company thinking that if I could bring joy to other children, maybe it would fill the hole that losing my father left behind. But watching Lily in the store that day, I realized I'd been approaching it all wrong. I'd been selling happiness instead of creating it. I'd been targeting families who already had everything instead of families who needed support. So this is charity? Jade asked, bristling slightly. No, Nathan said firmly. This is business. Good business. There are thousands of families in this city like yours, hardworking people who love their children but struggle to give them extras. If we can create programs that serve them, we build loyalty, we build community, and we build a sustainable model that other stores can replicate. You wouldn't be doing me a favor, Jade? I'd be hoping you'd do me the honor of helping me build something meaningful. Jade looked down at the folder again, at the salary that would change everything for her and Lily. No more 3 jobs. No more exhaustion. No more choosing between rent and groceries. But there was something else, something she was afraid to hope for. In Nathan's eyes, she saw the same loneliness she felt in her own life. The same sense of carrying burdens alone, of building walls to protect against disappointment. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course. Take all the time you need. Nathan stood up and walked to the window. But Jade? Whatever you decide, I want you to know that what you're doing for Lily, the sacrifices you're making, the love you're showing her, that's the most important job in the world. Don't ever let anyone tell you otherwise. As Jade rode the elevator down, her mind raced with possibilities. For the first time in over a year, she allowed herself to imagine a different kind of life. A life where she could be there when Lily got home from school. A life where they could afford new clothes and birthday parties and maybe even a vacation. A life where she might have time to be more than just a survivor. That evening, she sat at their small kitchen table with Lily, helping with homework while Mrs. Garcia cooked dinner next door. Jade, what would you think if I got a different job? She asked carefully. Lily looked up from her coloring book. A job where you don't have to work at night? Maybe. Would you be home more? Probably. Lily grinned, showing her missing front tooth. Then I think it's the best idea ever. Jade smiled, her decision made. Sometimes the biggest risks were worth taking, especially when you weren't just gambling with your own future. That night, she called Nathan and accepted the job. 2 weeks later, Jade's first day at Pierce Toys began with Nathan giving her a tour of the flagship store. It was early morning before the store opened, and the space felt magical in the quiet light. Nathan showed her every department, explaining his vision for how they could transform it into something more than just a retail space. "I was thinking we could set up a reading corner here," he said, pointing to an alcove near the children's books. "Comfortable chairs, good lighting, maybe some storytelling events on weekends." Jade nodded, her mind already spinning with ideas. "What about a craft area? Somewhere kids could make things while their parents shop." "I love it," Nathan said, and the enthusiasm in his voice was infectious. As they walked through the store, Jade felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time: excitement about the future. For the first time since her mother died, she was moving toward something instead of just trying to survive. "Nathan," she said as they finished the tour, "thank you for taking a chance on me." "Thank you for taking a chance on me," he replied. "I have a feeling we're going to do good things together." Neither of them said it, but they were both thinking the same thing. This felt like the beginning of something important. Something that might change both their lives in ways they hadn't even imagined yet. 3 weeks into her new job, Jade arrived at the store each morning with a sense of purpose she'd never experienced before. The transformation was remarkable, not just in her circumstances but in herself. For the first time in over a year, she was sleeping through the night instead of lying awake worrying about bills. For the first time since her mother died, she was building something instead of just surviving. The children's programming area was taking shape beautifully. Nathan had given her a generous budget and complete creative control, trusting her instincts about what kids needed. Jade had created cozy reading nooks with soft lighting and child-sized furniture. She'd set up craft stations where children could make things while their parents shopped. And she'd organized the space so that even the shyest kids felt welcome. "Miss Jade." "Miss Jade," called out Tommy, a 5-year-old who came to story time every Saturday morning with his grandmother. "Are you going to read us the dragon book today?" "We'll see," Jade said, smiling as she hung up her coat. "What do you think? Should we read about dragons or maybe something else?" "Dragons?" shouted 3 kids at once. Jade laughed, settling into the large armchair she designated as the storytelling throne. Around her, a dozen children arranged themselves on colorful cushions, their faces bright with anticipation. These Saturday morning sessions had become the highlight of her week. As she opened the book, Jade noticed Nathan watching from the toy aisle nearby. He often found reasons to be in this section of the store during her programs, and she'd caught him listening to the stories more than once. There was something almost wistful in his expression when he watched the children, like he was remembering what it felt like to be small and believe in magic. "Once upon a time," Jade began, "there was a dragon who was afraid of fire." After story time, as the children dispersed to explore the store with their families, Nathan approached with 2 cups of coffee from the cafe they'd added to the store. "You're a natural at this," he said, handing her a cup. "I've never seen kids so engaged." "They just need someone to pay attention to them," Jade replied. "Most adults are always rushing around, checking phones, thinking about the next thing. Kids can tell when you're really listening." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "I never learned how to do that. Listen, I mean. My mother used to read to me when I was little, but after my father died, she was always so tired, so stressed. I think I learned early not to ask for too much attention." It was the most personal thing Nathan had shared with her since she'd started working there. Jade had noticed that despite his kindness and generosity, he kept himself at a careful distance from everyone around him. He was friendly with his employees but never quite friends with any of them. "What was your father like?" she asked gently. Nathan's face softened. "He was present. That's the word I'd use. When he was with me, he was completely with me. No distractions, no hurry to be somewhere else. He made me feel like I was the most important thing in his world." He paused, sipping his coffee. "I've spent years trying to recreate that feeling for other people through this business. But I never learned how to create it for myself." Jade understood. She'd felt invisible for most of her life too, the scholarship kid who cleaned up after rich classmates, the waitress who served food to people who never learned her name, the cleaning lady who worked in empty offices where no one saw her efforts. "It's not too late to learn," she said softly. That afternoon, Lily arrived at the store straight from school, her backpack dragging behind her as she searched for Jade. This had become their new routine. Instead of going to Mrs. Garcia's house, Lily could come to the store and do homework in the children's area while Jade finished work. "Jade," Lily called out, spotting her sister arranging books on a low shelf. "Guess what happened at school today?" "What happened, baby?" "Mrs. Henderson said my drawing of our family was beautiful, and she wants to put it in the art show." Lily pulled a folded paper from her backpack. "Look." Jade took the drawing and felt her heart skip. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands in front of a big building that was clearly meant to be the toy store. One figure had long hair and was labeled Jade. One was small with pigtails and labeled Me. And the third was tall with short hair and labeled Mr. Nathan. That's really nice art, Lily, Jade managed, trying to keep her voice steady. I drew Mr. Nathan because he's always here when we are, Lily explained matter-of-factly. And he helps with my homework sometimes. And he brought us those cookies last week when I had a cough. Is that okay? Before Jade could answer, Nathan appeared from behind a display of board games. Did someone mention cookies? He asked with a grin. Mr. Nathan. Lily rushed over to him. Look at my family picture. Mrs. Henderson wants to put it in the art show. Nathan took the drawing, his expression growing serious as he studied it. Jade watched his face carefully, worried that Lily's innocent inclusion of him might make him uncomfortable. But instead of awkwardness, she saw something that looked like wonder. This is incredible, Lily, Nathan said quietly. You're a real artist. Do you like being in our family picture? Lily asked with the directness that only children possessed. Nathan glanced at Jade, then back at Lily. I'm honored to be included. That evening, Nathan offered to help Lily with her math homework while Jade finished organizing the craft supplies for the next day's workshop. Jade watched them work together at one of the small tables, Nathan's patience impressive as he helped Lily count on her fingers and work through simple addition problems. Mr. Nathan, Lily said as they finished the last problem, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you have a family? Nathan was quiet for a moment. Not really. My parents both died when I was younger and I don't have any brothers or sisters. That's sad, Lily said with the simple empathy of childhood. Are you lonely? Sometimes, Nathan admitted. Lily considered this seriously. Well, you can share our family if you want. We don't have a daddy and you don't have anyone, so maybe we could all be together. Jade felt her cheeks warm. Lily, that's not how families work. Why not? Lily interrupted. We all like each other, right? And families are supposed to take care of each other. Mr. Nathan takes care of us by giving you a good job, and we take care of him by being his friends. And maybe someday. She trailed off, looking between Nathan and Jade with the hopeful expression of a child who believed in fairy tale endings. Nathan looked at Jade, and for a moment, something passed between them that neither was quite ready to name. It was possibility, potential, the recognition that what had started as a business arrangement was becoming something deeper and more complicated. I think, Nathan said carefully, that friendship is a very good place to start. That night, as Jade tucked Lily into bed in their small apartment, she thought about how much their lives had changed in just a few weeks. They had stability now, security, hope for the future. But more than that, they had Nathan, not just as an employer, but as someone who genuinely cared about them both. Jade, Lily said sleepily, do you think Mr. Nathan would like to come to my school's family picnic next week? Jade's breath caught. The family picnic was for parents and children, the kind of event that always reminded her of everything they didn't have. I don't know, baby. He's probably busy. Maybe we could ask him, Lily suggested. Just in case he's not too busy to be part of our family. As Jade turned off the light, she realized that somewhere along the way she'd stopped thinking of Nathan as her boss and started thinking of him as something else entirely. Something that scared her and excited her in equal measure. Something that felt dangerously close to hope. The family picnic at Lily's school was exactly the kind of event Jade usually dreaded. Families spread out on blankets across the playground, fathers pushing children on swings, mothers chatting while their kids ran between the trees. It was a reminder of everything she and Lily didn't have, every absence that couldn't be filled by love alone. But this year felt different. This year, Nathan was walking beside them carrying a picnic basket he'd insisted on bringing, wearing jeans and a casual shirt that made him look less like a billionaire and more like, well, like someone who belonged with them. Is that where you have recess? Nathan asked Lily, pointing to the playground equipment. Ah. And that's where I fell off the monkey bars and scraped my knee, but I didn't cry because I'm brave, Lily said proudly, skipping ahead of them. She is brave, Jade agreed, watching her sister with a smile. Sometimes too brave for her own good. Nathan chuckled. Reminds me of someone else I know. Jade glanced at him. Who? You. Taking a chance on a job you'd never done before, trusting a stranger who showed up at your workplace with an impossible offer. That wasn't brave, Jade protested. That was desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. They found a spot under a large oak tree and spread out the blanket Nathan had brought. Around them, other families were doing the same thing, unpacking sandwiches, chasing toddlers, calling out reminders about sunscreen and staying hydrated. For the first time in her life, Jade felt like she fit into this scene instead of watching it from the outside. "Lily, come eat," Jade called as her sister ran past with a group of classmates. "Just 5 more minutes." Lily called back, then stopped suddenly when she saw Nathan. "Mr. Nathan, did you see how high I can swing?" "Not yet, but I'd love to see," Nathan said, standing up. "Want to show me?" Jade watched as Nathan followed Lily to the swing set, listened as Lily chattered about the proper technique for pumping your legs and leaning back at just the right moment. Nathan pushed her gently, his focus completely on Lily's delighted squeals and demands to go higher. "Is that your husband?" Jade turned to find another mother settling onto the blanket next to theirs. She was perfectly put together in that way that suggested plenty of time and money for self-care. "Oh no," Jade said quickly. "He's just a friend." "Really? He's wonderful with your daughter. Very patient. Most men get bored with kid stuff pretty quickly." Jade looked back at Nathan, who was now helping Lily across the monkey bars, counting each rung with exaggerated enthusiasm. "She's actually my sister. I'm raising her." "That's amazing," the woman said, her tone shifting to genuine admiration. "That must be incredibly hard." "It is," Jade admitted. "But she's worth it." "And your friend, is he single?" Jade felt an unexpected stab of something that might have been jealousy. I think so." The woman smiled. "Lucky you having someone like that in your life. He keeps looking over here to make sure you're okay. That's the kind of man you don't let get away." Before Jade could respond, Nathan and Lily returned, both slightly out of breath and grinning. "Jade, did you know Mr. Nathan can do cartwheels?" Lily announced, plopping down on the blanket. "I did not know that," Jade said, raising an eyebrow at Nathan. "It's been a while," Nathan said, looking embarrassed. "I may have pulled something." "Show her. Show her," Lily insisted. "Maybe later," Nathan laughed, settling back down on the blanket. "After I recover from the monkey bars." They ate lunch together. Sandwiches from the deli, fruit that Nathan had cut into fun shapes, cookies that Lily declared the best she'd ever tasted. The conversation flowed easily, moving from Lily's school activities to Nathan's stories about building the first toy store to Jade's ideas for new children's programs. "What about a cooking class for kids?" Jade suggested. "Teaching them to make simple, healthy snacks?" "I love that," Nathan said. "We could partner with the culinary school downtown, have their students teach the classes. And we could give the kids little chef hats." Lily added, having caught the end of the conversation. "Chef hats are essential," Nathan agreed solemnly, making Lily giggle. As the afternoon wore on, other families began to pack up and leave. But Jade found herself reluctant to end this perfect day. For a few hours they'd felt like a real family, not the improvised unit of necessity they'd become, but something chosen and joyful. "There's going to be a movie in the park next Friday," Nathan said as they gathered their things. "Some animated thing about talking animals. Would you two like to go?" "Yes," Lily shouted before Jade could answer. "Can we bring popcorn?" "All the popcorn you want," Nathan promised. As they walked back to Nathan's car, Lily slipped her hand into his on one side and Jade's on the other. "This was the best family picnic ever," she announced. Jade felt Nathan's eyes on her over Lily's head. When she met his gaze, she saw something that made her heart race. Not just affection for Lily, but something deeper and more complicated when he looked at her. That evening, after Nathan dropped them off at their apartment, Lily chattered excitedly about the day while Jade helped her get ready for bed. "I think Mr. Nathan had fun today," Lily said as Jade brushed her teeth. "He smiled the whole time. And did you see how he helped that little boy who was crying? He gave him a sticker from his pocket." Jade had seen. She'd watched Nathan comfort a toddler who'd fallen down, had seen him help an elderly grandfather up from his blanket, had noticed the way he'd naturally included kids who seemed left out of games. Nathan had a gift for paying attention, for seeing what people needed and providing it without making a big show of his generosity. "Jade," Lily said as they finished her bedtime routine, "do you think Mr. Nathan likes us? Like really likes us?" "I think he cares about us very much," Jade said carefully. "Do you think he might want to be our family for real someday? Like marry you and be my daddy?" Jade's breath caught. "Lily, that's not something we should think about. Mr. Nathan is our friend and that's wonderful. But we can't expect more than that." "Why not? You're pretty and you're smart and you make the best pancakes in the world. And I'm a good kid mostly. Why wouldn't he want to marry us?" "It's not that simple, baby." "But grown-ups always say things aren't simple when they're scared," Lily said with the devastating insight that children sometimes possessed. "Are you scared?" Jade looked at her sister's earnest face and realized that yes, she was terrified. Terrified of hoping for something so far beyond what she'd ever imagined possible. Terrified of misreading Nathan's kindness as something more. Terrified of risking the stability they'd finally found by wanting too much. Maybe a little, she admitted. It's okay to be scared, Lily said, patting Jade's hand with the wisdom of someone much older. But Mr. Nathan is scared too. I can tell. Maybe if you're both scared together, it won't be so scary. That night, as Jade lay in bed thinking about the day, she let herself imagine what it would be like to stop being afraid. To trust that Nathan's feelings for them were real. To believe that maybe, just maybe, Lily's innocent faith in fairy tale endings might not be so innocent after all. For the first time since her mother died, Jade fell asleep dreaming about the future instead of worrying about it. The boardroom at Pierce Toys corporate headquarters was all marble and mahogany, designed to intimidate and impress. Nathan sat at the head of the long conference table, facing 12 board members whose combined net worth could fund a small country. These were serious people, investment bankers, retail executives, corporate strategists who measured success in quarterly earnings and market share. Today they were measuring Nathan, and he could tell by their expressions that he was coming up short. Nathan, we need to talk about your recent priorities, said Margaret Hoffman, the lead investor who'd backed Pierce Toys from the beginning. She was in her 60s, steel-gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Your attendance at board meetings has been inconsistent. You've been spending an unusual amount of time at the flagship store instead of focusing on expansion plans. Nathan straightened in his chair. The flagship store is our testing ground for new initiatives. The children's programming we've implemented has increased family visit duration by 30% and return customers by 25%. Yes, we've seen the numbers, said Robert Chin, the CFO. They're impressive for one location. But we're concerned about your time allocation. You've missed 3 strategic planning sessions to attend story time at the store. Those programs are part of our strategic plan, Nathan said, feeling defensive. We're building something sustainable here, something that differentiates us from big box retailers. Margaret leaned forward. Nathan, nobody questions your business acumen. Pierce Toys has been incredibly successful under your leadership. But lately your decisions seem personal rather than professional. Your assistant tells us you've been leaving early to attend school events. School events for an employee's family member. Nathan felt his jaw tighten. Jade Washington is developing innovative programming that could revolutionize our industry. Supporting her work is supporting our company. Is that what this is about? Asked another board member, Thomas Reed. Because from where we sit, it looks like you're developing inappropriate relationships with employees. That's a liability issue, Nathan. Both for you personally and for the company. There's nothing inappropriate about my relationship with Jade, Nathan said firmly. Maybe not yet, Margaret said. But we've done our research. Single mother, works multiple jobs, struggling financially. It's a classic power imbalance situation. If this relationship goes wrong, and workplace romances usually do, Pierce Toys could face lawsuits, bad publicity, stock price impacts. Nathan stood up abruptly. Jade is one of the most talented, dedicated employees we've ever had. She's transforming how we connect with families. If you can't see the value in that. We see the value, Robert interrupted. What we don't see is why you're personally invested to the degree that you are. You're a billionaire, Nathan. You could hire the best child development experts in the world. Instead, you're mentoring a waitress with no relevant experience. Because she understands something that experts don't, Nathan shot back. She understands what it's like to struggle, what families really need, what children go through when. He stopped himself, realizing he was revealing more than he intended. Margaret's expression softened slightly. Nathan, is this about your father? The question hit him like a physical blow. The board knew about his father's death, of course. It was part of the company's origin story. But they'd never directly connected it to his business decisions before. This isn't therapy, Nathan said coldly. This is business. Exactly, Thomas said. And mixing personal trauma with business decisions is how companies fail. You're compromising your judgment, Nathan. We're worried about you. The meeting continued for another hour, with the board expressing their concerns about Nathan's focus, his priorities, his judgment. They weren't threatening to remove him, he owned too much of the company for that, but they were making it clear that his recent behavior was being watched and questioned. When Nathan finally escaped to his office, he felt drained and angry. He'd spent years building Pierce Toys into something meaningful, and now they were criticizing him for caring too much about the human side of the business. His assistant Carol knocked on the door. Mr. Pierce? I have the quarterly reports you requested, and there are 3 messages from. Cancel my appointments for the rest of the day, Nathan said without looking up. Sir, you have the marketing presentation at 3 and the investor call at. Cancel them. Nathan drove to the flagship store, needing to be somewhere that felt real instead of corporate and cold. It was the middle of a school day, so the children's area was quiet. He found Jade organizing craft supplies for an after-school workshop, her movements efficient and purposeful. Nathan? She looked up with surprise. I wasn't expecting you today. Is everything okay? Nathan wanted to tell her about the board meeting, about the questions and criticism and veiled threats. But looking at her concerned face, he realized how unfair it would be to burden her with his corporate politics. Just wanted to see how the programs are going, he said instead. Jade studied his face carefully. You look upset. Long day. Before Jade could respond, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and frowned. It's Lily's school. I should take this. Nathan watched Jade's face change as she listened to the caller. Color drained from her cheeks and her hands started shaking. Yes, I understand. I'll be right there, she said, hanging up with fumbling fingers. What's wrong? Nathan asked immediately. Lily collapsed during recess. They think it might be her appendix. They're taking her to Children's Hospital. Jade's voice was tight with panic. I have to go. I'm sorry, I know I'm supposed to work until. Forget work, Nathan said firmly. I'll drive you. The next few hours passed in a blur of emergency room waiting, medical forms, and worried conversations with doctors. Lily did need emergency surgery for appendicitis, but the doctors assured them it was routine and she would be fine. Nathan sat with Jade in the surgical waiting room, watching her try to hold herself together. She'd been strong through the initial crisis, handling medical forms and insurance questions with impressive composure. But now, with nothing to do but wait, the fear was catching up with her. She's going to be fine, Nathan said quietly. The doctor said it's very routine. I know, Jade whispered. But she's so little. And she was scared when they took her back and I couldn't go with her because of the surgery prep and, her voice broke. Without thinking, Nathan reached over and took her hand. She knows you love her. That's what matters. I can't lose her, Jade said, tears finally starting to fall. She's all I have left. After my mother died, Lily was the only thing that kept me going. If something happened to her. Nothing's going to happen to her, Nathan said with more confidence than he felt. She's tough just like her sister. When the surgeon finally came out to tell them the operation was successful, Jade collapsed against Nathan's shoulder with relief. He held her while she cried, feeling the weight of her fear and exhaustion and overwhelming love for her sister. It wasn't until later, when Lily was awake and asking for ice cream, that Nathan realized the board members had been right about one thing. His feelings for Jade and Lily weren't professional anymore. They hadn't been for a long time. He was in love with both of them, completely and irrevocably. And that was going to complicate everything. The hospital bill arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered to Jade's apartment in an envelope that seemed too thin to contain such devastating news. Jade stared at the numbers, reading them 3 times before the reality sank in. Even with insurance, Lily's emergency appendectomy would cost them $12,000, money they didn't have and couldn't possibly get. Jade sat at her kitchen table, surrounded by other bills that had been piling up while she'd taken time off to care for Lily. The rent notice was already yellow, warning of late fees. The electric bill was past due. And now this medical bill that dwarfed everything else. She'd been back at work for a week, but the missed time had cost her. The diner had given her shifts to someone else, citing unreliability. The cleaning service had been understanding but hadn't offered any extra hours to make up for lost time. Only Nathan had told her not to worry about the time off, that her job would be waiting whenever she was ready to return. Nathan. Jade closed her eyes, thinking about how he'd stayed with them through the entire hospital ordeal. How he'd sat in uncomfortable waiting room chairs for hours, bought them food from the cafeteria, helped Lily with crossword puzzles during her recovery. He'd been more present and supportive than any family member could have been, which made what she had to do next even harder. Jade picked up her phone and dialed Nathan's direct number. Jade, how's Lily feeling today? Nathan's voice was warm, genuinely concerned. She's doing better. Nathan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Of course. Did you pay Lily's hospital bill? The silence on the other end of the line told her everything she needed to know. Nathan, she said quietly, please answer me. Yes, he said finally. I did. Jade felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. How? How did you even have access to I called the hospital billing department and asked if I could make a payment on your account. They said as long as I had the patient's information, I could pay any amount I wanted. And you just decided to pay $12,000 without asking me? Jade, I know how proud you are, but I also know you don't have that kind of money. I couldn't stand the thought of you going into debt because what? Because poor people can't handle their own problems? Jade's voice was rising despite her efforts to stay calm. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean, Nathan? Because from where I sit, it looks like you see me as a charity case. The struggling single mother who needs rescuing by the rich guy. You're not a charity case, Nathan said firmly. You're someone I care about. Someone you what? Jade interrupted. Someone you feel sorry for? Someone whose problems you can solve by throwing money at them. Someone I love, Nathan said quietly. The words hung in the air between them, powerful and complicated and scary. Jade felt her anger waver for a moment before hardening again. Love doesn't give you the right to make decisions for me, she said. Love doesn't mean taking away my agency, my ability to handle my own family's needs. I was trying to help. You were trying to fix things. There's a difference. Jade took a shaky breath. Nathan, when you pay bills without asking, when you swoop in and solve problems I should be handling, you're not treating me like an equal. You're treating me like someone who can't take care of herself. I never meant. I know you didn't mean to hurt me. But you did. And more than that, you made me question everything between us. Is this relationship real, or am I just another one of your charitable projects? Nathan was quiet for a long moment. What are you saying? I'm saying I need some space to figure things out. I'm saying I can't work for you anymore, not like this. Not when I don't know if you see me as a partner or a project. Jade, please don't quit. Don't throw away everything we've built because you reminded me that we're not equals in this relationship? Because you reminded me that you have the power to solve my problems while I have nothing to offer you in return? That's not true. Isn't it? Jade's voice was tired now, defeated. What do I bring to your life, Nathan? What could I possibly give you that you can't buy for yourself? The question seemed to stump him, which only confirmed Jade's worst fears. I'll send my resignation letter tomorrow, she said. And I'll pay you back for the hospital bill, every penny. It might take me years, but I'll pay it back. Jade, don't do this. Let's talk about it. Let's. Jade hung up before he could finish. That evening, Lily found Jade crying at the kitchen table, surrounded by bills and job search websites. Why are you sad? Lily asked, climbing onto Jade's lap. I'm just tired, baby. Is it because you're mad at Mr. Nathan? Jade looked at her sister in surprise. What makes you think I'm mad at him? Because he usually comes to see us after work, but he didn't come today. And you look the same way you did when Tommy's mom said something mean to you at the park. Jade sighed. Mr. Nathan and I had a disagreement about grown-up things. Are you not going to be friends anymore? I don't know, Jade admitted. Lily was quiet for a moment, thinking with the seriousness of someone much older. When I have fights with my friends at school, Mrs. Henderson says we should tell each other how we feel and then say sorry if we were mean. Sometimes grown-up fights are more complicated than that. But Mr. Nathan isn't mean, Lily said firmly. He helped me when I was scared at the hospital. He read me stories and brought me that stuffed animal and stayed all night even though those chairs were uncomfortable. Mean people don't do that. You're right, Jade said softly. He's not mean. He's actually very kind. But sometimes kind people can still hurt your feelings without meaning to. So maybe he just needs to say sorry and promise not to hurt your feelings anymore? If only it were that simple, Jade thought. But the issue wasn't just hurt feelings, it was fundamental questions about power and equality and whether two people from completely different worlds could ever really be partners. That night, after Lily was asleep, Jade started working on her resignation letter. She tried to find words that would explain her decision without sounding bitter or ungrateful. Nathan had given her opportunities she never could have imagined, had treated her with more respect and kindness than most people in her life. But respect and kindness weren't enough if they came with the assumption that she needed to be taken care of rather than valued as an equal. As she wrote and rewrote the letter, Jade tried not to think about how much she would miss the job, the store, the children who came to story time. Tried not to think about how much she would miss Nathan's smile, his laugh, the way he listened to her ideas like they mattered. Most of all, she tried not to think about the fact that she was probably giving up the best thing that had ever happened to them because she was too proud to accept help when it was offered with love. But pride was all she had left. Pride and the determination to prove that she could take care of her family without anyone's rescue, no matter how well-intentioned. even if it broke her heart in the process. Nathan stood outside Lily's school at 3:15 p.m., ignoring the curious looks from other parents and the October wind that cut through his expensive suit. He'd been standing there for 20 minutes, trying to work up the courage to face a 6-year-old who might not want to see him anymore. It had been 2 weeks since Jade quit. 2 weeks since she'd returned his hospital payment with a money order that must have taken every penny she had saved. 2 weeks since she'd stopped answering his calls and started working double shifts at the diner to make up for lost income. Nathan had thrown himself into work, attending every board meeting, reviewing everhy expansion proposal, doing exactly what the board wanted him to do. But none of it mattered. The quarterly reports were just numbers on a page. The strategic plans were just words on paper. Everything felt hollow without Jade's insights, without Lily's laughter echoing through the store. Mr. Nathan. He turned to see Lily running toward him, her backpack bouncing against her small frame. She looked thinner than he remembered, and there were dark circles under her eyes that no 6-year-old should have. Lily, he said, kneeling down as she approached. How are you feeling? Is your incision healing okay? It's better, she said, but her usual enthusiasm was muted. What are you doing here? I came to see you. I wanted to make sure you're okay. Lily's expression grew serious. Jade says I'm not supposed to talk to you anymore. Nathan felt his heart sink. She said that? Not exactly. But she gets sad every time I ask about you, so I stopped asking. Are you and Jade never going to be friends again? Nathan looked into Lily's innocent face and realized he couldn't lie to her. I made a mistake, Lily. I hurt Jade's feelings and now she doesn't trust me anymore. What kind of mistake? I tried to help your family in a way that made Jade feel bad about herself. I thought I was being kind, but really I was being thoughtless. Lily considered this carefully. Like when I tried to help Tommy with his math homework by just giving him the answers, and Mrs. Henderson said that wasn't really helping because Tommy needed to learn how to do it himself? Nathan was amazed by her insight. Exactly like that. So you need to say sorry and do better next time? I've tried to say sorry, but Jade won't talk to me. Maybe you need to try harder, Lily suggested. When Jade is really mad, sometimes I have to be extra sorry. Like I have to show her I understand why she's upset and promise to never do it again. Before Nathan could respond, he heard a familiar voice behind him. Lily, what are you? Jade stopped short when she saw Nathan kneeling next to her sister. Her face went through several emotions before settling on carefully controlled anger. Nathan, what are you doing here? Nathan stood up slowly. I came to see Lily. To make sure she's recovering well. She's fine. We're managing just fine on our own. Jade's voice was cold, but Nathan could see the exhaustion in her posture, the worry lines that hadn't been there a month ago. Jade, please. Can we talk? We have nothing to talk about. She took Lily's hand. Come on, baby. Mrs. Garcia is waiting. But Jade, Lily protested, Mr. Nathan came all this way to see me. Can't we at least? Lily now. Jade's tone brooked no argument. Nathan watched them walk away, noting how Jade's shoulders were set with stubborn pride even as Lily kept looking back at him with confusion and sadness. That night, Nathan sat in his empty mansion, staring at the phone number for his private investigator. He could find out where Jade was working now, could show up with job offers or financial solutions. But that was exactly the kind of behavior that had gotten him into this mess in the first place. Instead, he picked up his laptop and started researching something completely different. The next morning, Nathan walked into his lawyer's office with a folder full of documents and a determination he hadn't felt in weeks. Nathan, good to see you, said Robert Kim, his attorney for the past 5 years. What can I do for you? I want to set up a foundation, Nathan said without preamble. For single-parent families. Specifically, families where one parent has died and left the surviving parent overwhelmed and under-resourced. Robert raised an eyebrow. That's very specific. What kind of assistance would this foundation provide? Everything. Emergency medical bill assistance, job training programs, childcare support, educational scholarships. I want to create a comprehensive support system that helps people get back on their feet without making them feel like charity cases. This is quite an undertaking. What's prompting this? Nathan thought about his father, about the hole his death had left in their family's life. About his mother working double shifts and trying to pretend everything was okay. About 7-year-old Nathan asking impossible questions about fairness and loss. It's something that should have existed a long time ago, he said simply. They spent 3 hours mapping out the foundation structure, its funding mechanism, its application process. Nathan insisted on one specific requirement. Assistance would be provided as grants, not charity. Recipients would be partners in the process, contributing their skills and time to help other families in need. What do you want to call it? Robert asked as they finished the paperwork. Nathan thought for a moment. The James Pierce Foundation. After my father. 2 days later, Nathan stood outside the diner where Jade was working, holding a manila envelope and trying to summon the same courage that had gotten him through boardroom negotiations and hostile takeovers. The lunch rush was ending, and through the window he could see Jade wiping down tables with the same efficiency she'd brought to everything at the toy store. She looked tired but determined, handling multiple tasks with the grace of someone who'd learned to work under pressure. When the bell above the door chimed his entrance, Jade looked up and froze. "We're closed to new customers," she said quietly. "I'm not here as a customer." Nathan approached her table slowly, like she might bolt if he moved too quickly. "I'm here because I owe you an apology. A real one. Nathan, please. Let me say this." He set the envelope on the table between them. "You were right about everything. I was treating you like a problem to be solved instead of a person to be respected. I was using my money as a substitute for actually listening to what you needed." Jade glanced at the envelope suspiciously. "What's that?" "It's not what you think. It's not money or a job offer or any kind of solution to your problems." Nathan sat down across from her. "It's something I should have done years ago, something my father would have done if he'd lived long enough." Curious despite herself, Jade opened the envelope and pulled out the foundation documents. Nathan watched her face as she read, saw her eyes widen as she understood what she was looking at. "You created a foundation," she said finally. "For families like yours. Like mine was after my father died. For people who need support but not pity, partnership but not charity." Jade looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "Why?" "Because you taught me the difference between helping and fixing. Because you showed me that the most important thing I could do with my privilege was create opportunities for other people to solve their own problems." Nathan leaned forward. "I'm not offering you anything, Jade. I'm asking you for something." "What?" "I want you to run it. The foundation. I want your insights, your understanding of what families really need, your ability to create programs that actually serve people instead of just making donors feel good about themselves." Jade stared at the documents, then at Nathan. "You're offering me a job. I'm offering you a partnership. Your name on the door, your vision guiding the mission, your salary set by an independent board so there's no question of favoritism or power imbalance." Nathan's voice was earnest, almost pleading. "I'm not trying to rescue you, Jade. I'm asking you to help me rescue other people." For a long moment, the only sound was the distant clatter of dishes being washed in the kitchen. Jade reread the foundation charter, noting the careful language that emphasized dignity and partnership over charity and dependence. "This is really what you want?" she asked finally. "What I want is for you to forgive me for being an idiot. What I want is the chance to prove that I can be the kind of partner you deserve, both professionally and personally." Nathan's voice dropped. "What I want is to be the man that Lily draws in her family pictures, not because I have money or can solve problems, but because I love you both and you love me back." Jade felt tears starting to form. "Nathan, I know I messed up. I know I have to earn your trust back. But I'm willing to do the work, Jade. However long it takes." Before Jade could respond, the kitchen door swung open and Betty, the head cook, poked her head out. "Jade, honey, your shift ended 10 minutes ago. Get out of here before I have to pay you overtime I can't afford." Jade laughed despite herself, wiping her eyes. "Betty, meet Nathan Pierce." "Nathan, this is Betty, the best cook in the city." Betty looked Nathan up and down with the assessing gaze of someone who'd seen every type of man walk through her doors. "So you're the one who made our girl cry?" "Yes, ma'am," Nathan said, standing up respectfully. "I'm trying to make up for that." "Good. She's too good for the likes of most men, but she deserves someone who sees that." Betty disappeared back into the kitchen, leaving them alone again. "I need time to think about this," Jade said, gathering the foundation documents. "Of course. Take all the time you need." Nathan stood to leave, then turned back. "Jade? I meant what I said. About loving you. Both of you. That's not going to change, whatever you decide about the foundation." As Nathan left the diner, Jade sat alone at the table, reading through the documents again and feeling something she hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. Maybe Lily had been right. Maybe some mistakes could be forgiven with enough genuine remorse and the promise to do better. Maybe some fairy tales were worth believing in after all. 6 months later, Jade stood in the Pierce Toys flagship store, watching Nathan read The Dragon Who Was Afraid of Fire to a circle of enraptured children. It was the same book she'd read on her first day of work, but everything else had changed in ways she never could have imagined. The James Pierce Foundation had launched 3 months ago with Jade as its executive director. They'd already helped 47 families with emergency medical bills, job training, and childcare support. More importantly, they'd done it in a way that preserved dignity and created lasting solutions rather than temporary fixes. Jade wore a simple white dress that had belonged to her mother, carefully preserved in tissue paper for over a year because she'd never had an occasion special enough to wear it. Today seemed like the right day to honor her mother's memory while celebrating the future. And the dragon realized that being afraid wasn't something to be ashamed of. Nathan read to the children, his voice carrying the storytelling rhythm Jade had taught him. Sometimes the things that scare us most are the things we need most to grow. Lily, sitting in the front row in a pale blue dress that matched her eyes, raised her hand. "Mr. Nathan, is that why you were scared to ask Jade to marry you? Because you needed to grow?" The other children giggled and several parents smiled knowingly. Nathan looked over at Jade with the expression of a man who'd been thoroughly outwitted by a 6-year-old. "That's exactly right, Lily," he said. "Sometimes grown-ups need to learn to be brave too." After story time, as the families dispersed to explore the store, Nathan approached Jade with nervous energy that was endearing on someone who commanded boardrooms and managed corporate empires. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready," Jade confirmed, though her heart was racing. They'd planned this moment carefully, wanting it to happen in the place where they'd met, surrounded by the community they'd built together. Nathan had proposed formally 2 months ago, getting down on one knee in the children's reading corner after hours, with only Lily as a witness. But today was about making it official in front of the people who mattered most to them. Nathan cleared his throat and called for attention. "Excuse me, everyone? Could I have your attention for just a moment?" The store gradually quieted as families turned to listen. These weren't strangers, they were regulars who came to story time and craft workshops, parents who'd been supported by foundation programs, children who saw the store as a second home. "6 months ago," Nathan began, "a little girl walked into this store and asked me to sell her a daddy. At the time I thought we only sold toys here. But it turns out this little girl was much smarter than I was." He looked at Lily, who beamed with pride. "She taught me that the most important things in life aren't things you can buy. They're things you build with love, patience, and commitment." Nathan took Jade's hand. "Today I'm making a promise to that little girl and to her incredible sister. I'm promising to be the daddy Lily asked for and the partner Jade deserves." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a simple gold band. They'd already exchanged engagement rings, but Nathan had wanted to do this part in front of their chosen family. "Jade Washington, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" "Yes," Jade said, her voice clear and strong despite the tears in her eyes. "Yes, absolutely yes." As Nathan slipped the ring onto her finger, the store erupted in applause and cheers. Children clapped excitedly, parents wiped their eyes, and store employees whistled appreciatively. But the best reaction came from Lily, who launched herself at both of them with such enthusiasm that they nearly fell over. "I'm getting a daddy," she announced to anyone within hearing distance. "A real daddy who reads stories and helps with homework and loves us." "You're getting a daddy," Nathan confirmed, kneeling down to her level. "And I'm getting a daughter and a wife. I think I'm getting the better deal." The celebration that followed was perfectly imperfect, children running between the toy aisles, parents sharing stories and congratulations, an impromptu cake from the store cafe that was slightly lopsided but tasted like happiness. Betty from the diner had closed early to attend, bringing half her staff with her. Mrs. Garcia, their former neighbor, dabbed at her eyes while talking to other guests about how she'd always known this would happen. Even some of Nathan's board members had come, looking slightly bewildered by the unconventional venue but genuinely happy for their CEO. "So when's the wedding?" Betty asked as the afternoon wound down. "Next month," Jade replied. "Small ceremony, just family and close friends." "Where?" Nathan and Jade exchanged glances. "Here," Nathan said. "In the store. Where our family really began." That evening, after the guest had gone home and the store had closed, the three of them sat in the reading corner, surrounded by books and stuffed animals and the comfortable chaos of toys. "Jade," Lily said seriously, "when you and Nathan get married, will you change your name? What do you think I should do?" Lily considered this with the gravity of someone making a crucial decision. "I think we should all have the same name. Like a real family." "We're already a real family," Nathan said gently. "Names don't make families. Love makes families." "But it would be nice," Lily insisted. "Lily Pierce sounds good, doesn't it?" Jade looked at Nathan, seeing the hope and vulnerability in his eyes. What do you think? Ready to have 2 Washington women become Pierce women? I've never been more ready for anything in my life, Nathan said. As they locked up the store and walked to Nathan's car, their car now, Jade supposed she marveled at how much their lives had changed since that first day when Lily had asked to buy a daddy. They'd all gotten so much more than they'd bargained for. Lily had gotten the father figure she dreamed of, someone who would push her on swings and read bedtime stories and show up to school events. Nathan had gotten the family he'd never let himself hope for, filling the empty spaces in his heart that money could never touch. And Jade had gotten something she'd never even known she wanted. A true partnership with someone who saw her as an equal, who valued her insights and respected her strength while offering support when she needed it. 3 weeks later, they stood in the same reading corner where Nathan had proposed, this time wearing wedding clothes and surrounded by flowers. The ceremony was small and intimate, just 40 people who mattered most to them. Lily served as both maid of honor and ring bearer, taking her duties so seriously that she practiced walking slowly for days beforehand. When the minister asked if anyone objected to the union, Lily stood up and announced that anyone who tried to object would have to deal with her, which made everyone laugh and cemented her role as the family protector. Nathan's vows were simple and heartfelt. Jade, you taught me that love isn't about having all the answers or solving all the problems. It's about showing up every day and choosing each other even when things are hard. I promise to be your partner, not your rescuer. To listen to your dreams, not just fund them. To love you and Lily with everything I have, for as long as I live. Jade's vows were equally direct. Nathan, you saw us when we felt invisible. You valued us when we felt worthless. You chose us when we couldn't imagine anyone would want our complicated, imperfect little family. I promise to build this life with you as equals, to trust you with our hearts, and to remind you every day that you're not just Lily's daddy and my husband, you're our family's heart. When they were pronounced husband and wife, and Nathan kissed Jade for the first time as her husband, Lily cheered so loudly that she drowned out the applause. At the reception held in the store's main area, with dancing between the toy aisles, Nathan found himself watching Jade laugh with their guests and marveling at how right this all felt. Not perfect because real life was never perfect, but right in a way that settled something deep in his soul. Happy? Jade asked, appearing at his side with 2 glasses of champagne. Happier than I knew was possible, Nathan admitted. Across the room, Lily was teaching other children how to play with her elaborate dollhouse, her natural leadership skills on full display. She caught Nathan looking and waved enthusiastically. Daddy, she called out, trying out the word with obvious delight. Come see what we built. Nathan felt his chest tighten with emotion. Daddy wasn't a title he'd bought or earned through grand gestures. It was a gift freely given by a little girl who decided he was worthy of her trust and love. Go, Jade said, pushing him gently toward Lily. Your daughter is calling. As Nathan walked over to admire Lily's dollhouse creation, Jade watched her new family with contentment that went bone deep. They still had challenges ahead. Combining their lives wouldn't always be smooth, and raising a child while building careers and a foundation would require constant balance. But they had love, and they had each other, and they had the hard-won knowledge that the best things in life couldn't be bought or sold. They could only be built, one day at a time, with patience and commitment and the kind of faith that a 6-year-old girl had shown when she'd walked into a toy store and asked to buy a daddy. Sometimes the most impossible dreams were the ones most worth believing in. That night, as Nathan read Lily a bedtime story in their new house, a real house with a yard and space for all of them, Jade listened from the doorway and smiled at how naturally he'd settled into fatherhood. And they all lived happily ever after, Nathan finished, closing the book. Daddy, Lily said sleepily, do you think all families get happy endings? Nathan considered the question seriously, thinking about loss and loneliness and the long journey that had brought them all together. I think families that love each other and take care of each other get the kind of happiness that matters most, he said finally. Not perfect happiness, but real happiness. The kind that lasts. Lily nodded sagely. That's the best kind. As Nathan turned off the light and joined Jade in the hallway, she slipped her hand into his. Ready for this? She asked, meaning marriage, parenthood, the beautiful chaos of family life. With you too? I'm ready for anything, Nathan replied. And as they walked toward their own bedroom, toward their new life together, Jade realized that sometimes the most beautiful love stories started with the simplest questions. Like a little girl asking if it was possible to buy the one thing money couldn't purchase. And discovering that the best things in life came not from stores, but from hearts willing to open and grow and choose love, even when it seemed impossible. Especially then.